Hello everyone, this is Joseph Grimm, lead investigator of Grimm's Cryptic International Paranormal Trackers. Back tonight on another live. See who I can invite on and see who would like to be a guest. Hello Readings by Millis. Hello Nino. Hello Christian. What this show tonight is about is emotional freedom and emotional clarification. It takes times when you get into a spot that you need the emotional clarification. Hello Biotuning. When you get into that spot, that you need that emotional clarification, it's interesting that when you're in that. How are you?
I am fine.
And let me turn my volume up. When you're in that spot that you need that emotional clarification, and it takes you being away from those you love, you have to put yourself in a mindset. It puts you in a mindset when they leave that it scares you a little bit. But within that time that they're gone, you get a lot of emotional freedom to where you can think, to where you can almost be free to a certain level to gain much more your emotional understanding, your emotional discernment, and that emotional intelligence enough to recognize that when you were in that situation, both of you were nitpicking at each other, knocking each other around emotionally, that when you're there, it's not that you didn't love each other, it's not that you didn't care about each other, it's not that you didn't love each other and care about each other, it's the point of how much were you too willing to take to keep putting each other through that, and then you get to that point of why did it happen? Why did it continue to happen? Why did it have to go over and over again? The same old cycle again. Why did it have to continue on the way it did? Why did you have to allow it to keep going? So when you're in that spot, you have to ask yourself, what did we minimize for each other? What did we rationalize for each other? Why did we keep doing this to each other? Is it that we didn't love each other? Is it that we didn't care enough? But then you get to the point of, say the person was a drug addict in this situation, or an alcoholic, or had some type of addiction in the situation. You get to a point where you minimize and you rationalize with the situation. Hell, they can go keep using, keep doing their addiction. I'm just glad they're here. You do that to yourself. You minimize in your mind that why they're still here. Why you allowed them to stick around, why you allowed yourself to continue to go through the bullshit. Because you got to the point where you accepted it, or you accepted their bullshit. Well, they're going to keep doing their bullshit, but at least they're here. It's like a mom that goes into a situation and she's been in the situation before and there's an abuser there. She'll be like, oh, at least I get my kids, but I'm going to be abused by this person, but I get my kids. Same concept. It's the battered syndrome, where you fall into that battered woman syndrome. Even though you're a guy, you can still fall under it because that's all you feel you deserve. Is that shit. You think you deserve that crap. You fall into that mind oppression. Not depression, but oppression of that you become emotionally possessed by them. To where it just, you become so wound up in your emotions with them. It's almost like they possess you with their emotions. It's like they know how to use your emotions against you, and you confront them, you confront them, and they use that as they use whatever they're doing as their excuse to manipulate your emotions and play on them. And they continue to do that, but you've gotten so used to it because you think this is what you deserve. You think this is what you get. You think this is what you have to have. You think that's all you're good enough for, is that abuse, that mindset. You've gotten so used to it, so beaten down by that, you think that's all you should get. You think that's all you deserve. You think that's all you're worthy of. You think that's the only thing that you're allowed to have. And you're so stuck in that mindset that you think that's all you're worthy of. And when you're stuck in that mindset, you're stuck in that endless cycle. You get to that point where they're gone, and you have to realize that you deserve more than that. You have to realize that you are better than that. You're in that mindset where you think that's all you deserve, is that continuous cycle, endless cycle. You think that's all you're worthy of. You think that's all you'll ever gain when you're in that cycle, when you're around that alcoholic, that addictive person, and you're the one that's the sober one in the situation. You convince yourself, oh, they can keep doing their addiction, but I get to keep them at least. No, you don't really get to keep them. They're emotionally holding you hostage in that situation. They're emotionally taking a hold of you, and you're an emotional hostage. You're emotionally possessed by them. And that's what you've convinced yourself of. That's all I deserve. That's all that I'm valued at getting, is this emotionally addictive person. But yet, you do things within this situation too. You're no saint in the situation yourself. So you're responding to them. Hello, James Martin. Hello, Black Cat Paranormal 666. You're emotionally responding to them with anger and slight aggression or passive aggressiveness. And of course, they're going to respond back to you. And let's say the next morning they wake up and they're sobered up, and you confront them on some things they did, they're not going to remember it. Ironically enough, they're going to have a complete mental blackout. That's what they're going to have, is that mental, emotional blackout. So they're not going to remember any of it. They could have damn near killed you the night prior, emotionally, and you'll confirm on the next day, and they're not going to be like, wait, what? They're not going to remember any of what they did. That's the funny thing about an addictive personality. It doesn't have to be alcohol, drugs, whatever. They can be addicted to chaos. That chaos, or whatever they're addicted to, emotionally can give them that high to where they completely have a mental wipeout, mental blackout. It blanks out their memory, mental blank out, basically. And they wake up the next morning not remembering anything. But yet, when they're in that situation, they're a drug addict, alcoholic. You're basically an alcoholic. They're going to not remember anything the next day. They're going to drink to a point. If they're full on alcoholic, they're going to drink to a point that they don't remember. But in a roundabout way, they themselves have that mindset, oh, I can do this and get away with it. He ain't going to do nothing, or she's not going to do nothing, whatever it may be. They're going to continue to have that mindset, oh, I can keep doing this. And they're going to just keep excusing my behavior. I know, because I was in that situation. That I kept excusing the other person's behavior. Granted, I was no saint. How I would pull away from the situation is I'd bury myself in my phone. I'd bury myself in paranormal. I'd bury myself in my computer. That's how I pulled myself away from that situation. But then then on the same note of that, you're neglecting them, so that gives them that rationale to keep drinking that much more, or keep doing their drugs, whatever they're doing, pills, pot, cocaine, heroin, whatever it may be, whatever their drug of choice is. That gives them that excuse to keep doing what they're doing. So on the same note, it's a double-edged sword. You try to emotionally save yourself from the situation by burying yourself in something further. But on top of that, you're also neglecting them. But when they're sober, you don't know what's going to happen when they're sober. So therefore, you're trying to emotionally protect yourself by going into what you go into the phone, computer, like I would. I'd go into my phone and my computer, or talk with other people. But on the same note, I was still neglecting them, and that neglect would give them the rationale where they could go drink more and more. So in that situation, I was damned if I do, damned if I don't, pretty much. So in essence, when they're sober and you're trying to keep yourself emotionally safe, You're neglecting them, but on the same note, that's teaching them to live alone. That's teaching them, that's giving them pretty much the cardinal excuse to go ahead and drink, go ahead and do what you got to do. See, in that situation, I was damned if I do, damned if I didn't type thing, but yet I didn't play my role and the other person played their role in the situation. You have to get to that point where you emotionally recognize that they have an addiction. It's like you can't, a meth addict, if they've been clean a while and they've got a severe meth addiction, you're not going to go out and just get handled a bag of meth. Heroin addict, you're not just going to give them a needle full of heroin even though that they're addicted. You're just contributing to the cause. Like you buying alcohol for an alcoholic. You're just feeding that addiction. And you're pretty much taking your life in your own hands in that spot. That's where you have to gain the emotional understanding, emotional discernment enough to be like, no, I'm not feeding your addiction no more. I'm not going to feed into you. I'm not going to let you manipulate me. But also on the same note, you don't feed into their addiction, they're going to get mad. So you got to be like that. And at times when you're minimizing and rationalizing, well, they've got their alcohol, you're just doing it to keep the peace. But that's you not standing in your power and standing up to them. See, that in turn lies also another problem. You're not being true to yourself. You're not being authentic to yourself. You're not even being authentic to them by you continuing to feed their addiction. All you're doing is you're contributing to it. And you're sitting there contributing to whatever may or may not come out of that. So either way, it's a consequence. You feed their addiction, they come at you, so that's where it becomes a problem with the consequence. See, so it's that double-edged sword. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Addictive behaviors are quite interesting because I am a former alcoholic. I've been clean 14 years. I used to be a pill popper, so I was damned if I did, damned if I didn't. Damned if I do, damned if I didn't situation. It took me a while to get sober. Because when I was a drunk, I would look for people to fight, either whether it be physically or emotionally. So that's where it gets to the point where it took me a while to sober up. I can honestly say when I drank, I lost my job. Because I was that addictive type of personality. Then when I lost my job, I made a lot of people's day a living hell. See, so when it got to a point after I got sober, I replaced one addiction with another. Then when I got sober, there were times I replaced my alcohol with my addiction to chaos trauma. So I always had some type of addiction. When you have an addiction, you have to replace it's common occurrence to replace one addiction with another, whether it be drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, chaos, violence, whatever it was. I'd find something to replace it with. That's what type of personality I was. I was a very addictive personality. You can also get that addiction where you get addicted to people, where you get addicted just to have someone around you. And that addictive personality is not a good thing to have. Trust me. It's not a good personality. Hello, Lisa Della. And when you're around that addictive personality, you're in that mindset where you feel you need to fill that addiction. And then when you get in that mindset where the addiction gets cleared up, you have a void and you say you have to find something to fill that void, whether it be. For me, I filled it with whatever I could find. I figured that I needed something to make me happy when I wasn't even happy with myself. So when you get in that mindset, you can't be happy with someone else until you're happy with yourself. You can't love somebody until you fully love yourself. It took me a really long time to understand that concept. To love oneself, to be in love with oneself, to be in a relationship with oneself. Because I got so used to having people around me that I couldn't stand being alone. And since the 9th of October, I've been on my own. It hasn't been no easy task, but I've gotten to a point where I've gotten to like me. I've gotten to understand me a lot more. I've gotten to that point where I notice it's okay for me to be alone. It's not fun, but it's okay. I've accepted it. And I don't mind it so much. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I'll do another live tomorrow morning. Peace out, everybody. Love you all.